Okay, now you know how to create your own custom palettes. Let me show you how to use them and how to use my custom workspaces. And let me show you. Let's go now and launch the 9.5 custom palette that we had up before. We went to Window, we went to Arrange Palettes, and right over here was all my customized palettes. My layouts were all there. They're gone now. Where are they? That's because those palettes were all in a different workspace. And that workspace doesn't exist yet in this version, in this program. And I'll show you. I launched Painter with its factory defaults so that I can show you how it's going to look when you do the same. The first time you open up Painter, you will see exactly what I see. It will open up to its default. When you look in here, you have Workspace, which is new to 10, and it's going to say default. And that's all you're going to see. Okay? And its default is the color wheel, mixer, color sets, and layers. Okay? Now what I did was I created another default based on this one. I created that for you, as well as something called Phase Masters Workspace, which is where I'm giving you all the master palettes, all the master brush categories, all the new stuff that I created specially for you for 10. Now, how do I get that workspace to be part of this workspace? So this is what we do. We go into Window, Workspace, Import Workspace. And on this CD, you have something called a goodies folder. My goodies folder happens to be on my desktop. Yours will be on your CD. And when you're going to go to your goodies folder, you'll have many things. You'll have goodies from Faye, which will be images that you can paint. And you'll have goodies from iStock, and I will discuss them later on when we're going to be painting. But there will also be in the goodies a folder called Workspaces. And in that folder, you have two workspaces. One is Backup Default, which I'll explain to you in a minute. And the other one says Phase Master Workspace. Click on that and say Open. And watch what happens. Voila. You now have my workspace, what I work on in the house. You don't have to install it into your application folder, into your brush folder. You don't have to learn how to create it from scratch. It's my gift to you in honor of Painter 10. You have everything that I have now. You have all my brush categories: Rembrandt, Sargent, Impressionist, Degas, Mary Cassatt, Norman Rockwell, and portrait hairbrushes. Cool. All the stuff that you've been asking me for, it's all here in this new workspace, thanks to Painter 10. Now, not only do you have a workspace, but within this workspace are my different layouts. And again, you have to be able to understand the concept. A workspace is similar to a different user. When you open up a computer, you have different users, and within those users are different environments. So here I have my workspace, Phase Master Workspace. Let's go back to default. Right now, that's all we have here. I'm going to click on default, and there we have it. It's exactly the one that we opened the computer with. Now, if I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to move this palette around, and I'm going to close Mixer and Color Sets. Okay? And I'm going to check now all my brushes. They're all here. Good. Fine. Now I'm going to go and launch back the other workspace. Back to Phase Master Workspace. And there's my Master Workspace. It clicks it back into place. I am now back in my default workspace. Window, Workspace, Default. So I have the Phase Masters and the default. But notice how it's not in that same location that it opened up in originally. Because what happens is, default is not default anymore. It opened up at default, but the minute you start moving it around, whenever you relaunch it, it will go back to the last place that it all was. Okay, now I'm going back into my workspace with Phase Master's workspace. Okay, that's my workspace. But if I were to move everything around, that would be the same story, except that I saved the layout. So if I'm coming back in here and I'm now in Phase Master workspace, but if I'm going to go to the palette, I arranged the palettes in a specific layout. I arranged them in Paint like Masters, which is the workspace that this is the layout that it's giving me. And I arranged also 9.5 as well as just my regular toolbox. So I have 3 different layouts, and those layouts are only available to me when I launch the workspace that says Phase Master Workspace. It's within there. If I go back to default, now if I look for my layout, it's not there. It's a different workspace. So what I did was I made you a default layout. So in case you start moving around your default and you lose your default, all you have to do is go back to your workspace, import, and you go back to your goodies folder, and in the workspaces, in case you mess up your default, all you got to do is launch back default. It's a backup default as well. And it's just what I did was I created another default. And every time, if you don't touch this one, it'll be fine. But if you start moving this around, this will not be your default as well. So let me show you how to create a custom workspace. If you come in here and say Workspace, Customize Workspace, you come into a window. In here, you can open or close any of the brushes, libraries, or portfolios. What if you don't want all the brushes? If I come and I click, I highlight on the brushes, open them up, click on Paint Brushes, and I have in here Real Bristle, which we're going to discuss, brand new category, just amazing in Painter 10. But what you have in here is one difference from Painter 9 and 9.5. The categories of the brushes are now, they're grouped in media, according to their media. They are not grouped in alphabetical order the way they were in 9 and 9.5. So if that bothers you, you can switch that. In other words, chalks, pencils, Conte, charcoals, pastels, and oils, they're together, they're grouped in, so when you go to look for a chalk, you find they're grouped according to the media groups. But if you want to put them back in alphabetical order, and it takes some doing, you can take it, you highlight the brush category, and you pull it up to where you want it to be. I just pulled it up back to impasto. If I want oils, and I use it a lot, and I want it to go all the way up, I can move it and make that my first one. Okay, so I can play around with it, but that will stay. It will not be my default. That will be my new default. So let's say I wanted my oils all the way on top, but I don't use my sponges, so I don't want it to appear. I'm closing the eye on the sponges, the impasto, and the airbrushes. And I'm saying done. Okay, when I'm going to come in here now, oils are on top now. And I will not have my airbrushes are not here anymore, because I didn't get rid of them. I just closed the eye on it. I don't want it to appear. So I can customize the workspace to be just 4 categories, and it should just be really easy for me to use. And from that, I can make a custom palette. So if I like this workspace, I'll go Window, and I want to share it with some friends, or maybe send it to the teacher, to me, so I can see what you have. You go to Workspace and say New Workspace. And now I give it a name, and I'm going to call it New Workspace. You can call it with your name, Abridged Workspace, whatever you want. Now, what is it based on? Is it based on the backup default, which I just have? Is it based on Phase Master Workspace? No. If I'm going to go and click to Phase Master Workspace, it's going to look exactly like Phase Master Workspace. And in my workspace, I didn't bring the oils all the way to the top, and I didn't close the airbrushes. It has to be to the one that you were in when you made all those changes. And it's not factory defaults either. It's on backup default. That's what we were on. And I'll say save. And now I have another workspace. I have now new workspace, Phase Master, default, and backup default. Okay, so backup default right now and new workspace are the same because I based one on the other. It's a little hard to grasp in the beginning, but once you get a hang of it, you'll understand. Basically, what you need to know is to take the gift that I gave you, go to Workspace, go to Phase Master Workspace, and you have everything that you need. And within this workspace, you stay in here, you have all your different palettes that are in here, and I will give you more lessons based on these palettes and all the master brushes. So let's start now painting.